Hello. Today is April 5th, 2024. I've had to restart the intro to this journal here because I'm fully caffeinated and this isn't a very common occurrence for journals. I got to campus early today. I was kind of in this gray area between having enough time for the gym but a very rushed workout and arriving early. So I just decided to arrive early and take some time to chill out before class today. But I want to sort of expound on this idea that I brought up a few days back, which is this idea of shows like Shogun. Why do we find them interesting? Why do we like them? Why do they gain such immense popularity? Shows like Shogun, what do I mean? Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, Succession to an extent. I'll talk about that more later if I remember to. But shows that deal with power plays and politics of either fictional or non-fictional realms. Shows that follow the search for power and what it entails. So I want to sort of think back to a scene in Shogun, which this might be a spoiler, but it's really not that big of a deal. Ishido, which is one of the more powerful characters in the show. He is one of the regents on the council. There's 5, so he's one of the technically 5 most powerful people in Japan. He's having a conversation with someone and he talks about how he rose up from nothing and how he used to be a peasant and now he's here. He's one of the most powerful people. So obviously there's a bit going on there, and a lot of the times, like when I watch Game of Thrones too, like it's like what is going on with the peasant class here, with the proletariat class, if you will? Like what's going on in the background? Because that they're suffering, especially if it's like a medieval show like Shogun or Game of Thrones. Obviously Shogun's a bit closer to historical reality than Game of Thrones, but nonetheless I think you get the point. Like that thought has just crossed my mind so many times. We don't ever see the common people in the show, and if we do, they're playing a very, very minor role. Shogun, and I think both shows do try, but at the end of the day, what are the most important players in these shows? It's the sort of gentry class. So there's that. And then obviously this scene also harks back to one of the most commonly associated notions of capitalism and what people use to justify it even to this day. And it's that under capitalism, and even here under feudalism, which you can debate between what's the difference. Is capitalism just more stratified feudalism? I tend to agree, but obviously that's very nuanced and I'd probably end up being late to class. But getting back to the idea here, it's that people say under these systems you can achieve anything no matter what class you're born into. I've heard the argument many times, which is that instead of giving welfare to impoverished communities, I've heard this from people that I know that are conservative, it's that we should give them some sort of, I don't really think it's give them, I think it's more so we need to implant the idea in citizens that lived in impoverished communities' minds that they can seek to do anything instead of joining gangs and whatnot. But obviously, I disagree with that idea. I don't think that's really what's going on. I don't think that people in impoverished communities lack the idea that they can sort of change their fortunes, if you will, to put it in a metaphorical but also very sadly true way. So there's that. And it's like, why do we enjoy these shows? Why are they always so popular? And obviously, I have to give credit here to one of my professors, Professor Martin, if you are somehow watching or are part of that class. I'm not trying to steal it. It's influencing me and getting me to think quite a bit. He mentions it offhand a bit when we start talking about like pop culture. But he's like, even from a young age, these Disney princesses, you know, it's still feudalism, and it's like these Disney princesses on material lines. This guy just pulled up in a Corvette and he's old. Oh my goodness. Awesome. They don't really struggle along material lines, and if they ever do, they always find a way back, and it's because they're a part of the gentry class. Is that irrelevant to the point I'm making here? Maybe. The point is, I think that when it comes to big time TV writers, movie producers, and whatnot, yes, indeed, some of them have come from lower classes, if you will. But at the same time, sometimes it's easy to forget where you came from, and so they make these shows based off of things that perhaps they experienced themselves, dealing with boards who are saying, you know, the show has to be this way and whatnot, and dealing with the politics of filmmaking or TV making. I'm not sure what the right word is there, but making media in general. And so I think that the audience, us, end up liking these shows, and I agree with my professor here. He hasn't outright said this, he's more so just gestured at it, but we end up liking these shows because a lot of what's going on within them is something that we don't experience for ourselves. You know, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I haven't been involved in serious decision making in the United States. I've hardly been involved in serious decision making anywhere in my life other than very futile things, I guess. Like, it doesn't truly matter what car I drive and what clothes I buy. What really matters is sort of policy that dictates much more. And you know, even when it comes to your parents, like up until you move out of the house, what sort of decisions do you have a lot of control over? Obviously this varies in many degrees. Some parents allow their kids to decide more than others, but I think you get the idea. And so shows like Shogun, they represent something that the proletariat class doesn't have access to, and it's sort of like selling you on the idea of here's what it's like, and it's so intriguing because of all the drama. In many ways they do resemble soap operas that way, in terms of political backstabbings and all of that sort of good stuff. Now, if you've made it this far, of course, Shogun is good writing, it's good acting, there's good musical accompaniments. I've always struggled with that word, and I don't want to take away from that. However, I just feel as if we tried to make a show about Japanese culture in medieval times without the political stakes, what would it look like, and what would it be as popular? I don't know. I think it's a question worth asking. So that's really all I wanted to say about this, I suppose. I could end up making a video essay. Shout out if you even know that I used to make video essays, but and you know, make it a bit more cohesive and structured and whatnot. But I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments. In terms of what's going on today, I don't really know, because it's the beginning of my day. I just made a meme about coffee drinkers being the ones in Plato's allegory of the cave at the bottom being tricked by illusions, and then Celsius enjoyers being up top, the philosopher kings. So that probably gives you an idea of where I'm at. Caffeine is crazy. I've thought about making, you know, real videos about caffeine before, but haven't gotten there. Ironically, caffeine is something that, what's his name? Michael Pollan. I don't want to get it wrong. There's a video on YouTube that a lot of people have seen about how capitalism or caffeine was vital to the development of capitalism, which is very interesting because this really does make you just want to be productive. It's pretty nuts. I feel like that was a good time to sip. So yeah, I'm gonna eat some yogurt and then head off to class. And yeah, happy Friday. Hope y'all are having a good end to your week, and I hope it was a good week. Peace and love.